All right, so today we are really diving deep, taking a deep dive into Khaled Hosseini's A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It's such a powerful story, and we're going to unpack it all. The characters, the themes, the emotional core, everything.
It's one of those books that just stays with you.
It really does.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it feel like you, the listener, are right there living it all alongside these characters.
Speaking of the characters, I think it's fascinating how Hosseini starts the book. I mean, he throws us right into the world of Mariam.
Yeah, this young girl living in a small Kolba outside of Herat.
And the contrast, right, between her life and her father Jalil's life.
Oh, absolutely.
It's stark.
It's huge.
You've got Mariam in this tiny, isolated hut.
Right.
And Jalil, her father, is living this life of privilege in the bustling city.
Totally different world.
It's like she's living in the shadow of his world.
And those monthly wheelbarrow deliveries, right, from Jalil's house.
Oh, yeah.
Every time. It's just this painful reminder of everything that she lacks.
It emphasizes the distance, yeah, not just physically, but between their lifestyles. Every time she counts the seconds as he leaves.
Oh, I know.
You feel that longing.
Yeah.
That desperation for something more.
And we can't forget Nana.
Right. Mariam's mother.
This complicated, she's constantly filling Mariam's head with talk of jinn,
Oh, right.
almost like these mythical creatures.
Right. And blaming their misfortunes on Jalil's betrayal.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of this is Nana actually believing in these jinn, and how much of it is her just coping with the injustice of her own situation.
Because to understand it, I think you have to understand the societal pressures, right?
Oh, absolutely.
In Afghan society, especially back then, being an illegitimate child.
Huge stigma.
Yeah. And Nana feels the full weight of that shame.
Totally.
And so it kind of explains that bitterness.
Right.
And the limitations that are placed on women like her.
And how that then, in turn, shapes Mariam's whole worldview.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
It's like the cycle.
And you can see that right in the duality of Mariam's life. I mean, even her name, it's chosen by both Jalil and Nana, right?
Interesting.
And it reflects this kind of push and pull. On the one hand, she's Jalil's daughter, right? She's yearning for his love.
Right.
On the other hand, she's burdened by the stigma of her birth.
Right.
Constantly reminded of her mother's resentment.
And she's clinging to this hope of Jalil's infrequent visits.
Yeah.
Like counting those seconds.
Yeah.
It's like they hold some kind of magic.
You said it.
And then her 15th birthday happens, and it's like this turning point.
Oh.
Remember when she goes to visit him?
Oh, I know. In Herat.
Yeah, defying Nana.
That's a pivotal moment right there.
It is.
She travels all the way to Herat, and what does she get? Rejection.
Yeah.
Which just shatters, I think, any remaining illusions.
Right.
It forces her to confront the reality.
Of her situation.
Yeah. And this is where you see, I think, Hosseini masterfully revealing these societal expectations, especially for women.
Totally.
And how these expectations can really trap individuals.
And give them very little control over their own destinies.
Exactly.
Which leads us to her marriage to Rasheed.
Oh, boy.
This much older man. Talking about going from the frying pan into the fire. It's like he goes from one kind of confinement to another, right?
Oh, absolutely.
First, the Kolba with Nana,
Right.
and then being sent off to Kabul to Rasheed, like a prized possession.
Yeah.
And his house is certainly not what you probably imagine.
No, not at all. Remember how Hosseini describes Rasheed's house?
Yeah.
It's smaller,
Yeah.
darker than Jalil's. It's almost like symbolic
Right.
of Mariam descending.
Get into this, yeah.
More oppressive existence, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's there that I think the burqa becomes something more, right?
Yes.
It's not just clothing. It represents that confinement.
Drinking world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And as if her own personal situation wasn't enough.
Right.
Kabul itself is changing too.
Oh, yeah.
This is the 1980s.
Right.
The Soviets are withdrawing.
Right.
The Mujahideen are gaining power.
Yeah.
It's a volatile time.
It's a city on the edge, really. You can feel it in the writing. This uncertainty, this fear, and it seeps into everything. It mirrors kind of that darkness
Yeah.
that's happening with Mariam.
Yeah. And then there's Laila,
Yes.
who lives across the street. It's like this burst of sunlight,
Yeah, exactly.
this breath of fresh air.
She's full of life.
Vibrant.
Yeah.
She's got dreams for the future.
Yeah, she has this close family, a loving family.
Right.
And then there's Tariq.
Ooh. You could just feel it.
Sparks.
The sparks.
Yeah. I think Laila represents that that resilience
Yes.
of the human spirit.
Even in the midst of all this hardship and this uncertainty around her.
She still has hope. You know, think about her love for poetry,
Yeah.
her thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
She's a stark contrast to Mariam.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, Mariam has internalized so much, right? Years of her mother's negativity.
Societal limitations.
Exactly.
So you almost wonder, how could these two women,
Right.
who are seemingly from different worlds, ever find common ground?
Right.
But that's fate.
But that's fate for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Brings together these unexpected connections.
Yeah.
And for Mariam and Laila, I think war is that catalyst,
Yes.
wouldn't you say? That throws them together.
It's this tragic twist of fate
It is.
that binds them.
Bound by circumstance.
Yes.
By vulnerability.
And by this man, Rasheed.
Oh, boy.
Because Layla's world is about to be turned upside down.
It is.
And Rasheed is going to insert himself
Ugh.
with devastating consequences. Layla's life has really been shattered, hasn't it?
Completely.
I mean, she's trapped in this marriage with Rasheed.
Yeah. And at this point, it's more than just her own personal struggle, you know? It's
Right.
like Layla's situation becomes a microcosm of what's happening in Afghanistan.
Yeah, with the Taliban rising to power.
Exactly. Their grip tightens and their rules, especially for women, they become so oppressive.
And we see that, right? How Layla's already limited freedom is just squeezed even more.
Yeah, it's like she's suffocating.
And then there's Mariam, who's already been living under Rasheed's thumb for years at this point.
Right.
And at first, you sense that rivalry, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Almost like they're competing for Rasheed's attention, you know?
For those scraps of kindness, yeah.
Yeah, those little bits he doles out. But that shifts, doesn't it?
It does. It's really remarkable how Hosseini writes the evolution of their relationship, you know?
Yeah.
They go from rivals to allies, and it's this shared suffering that forges this bond between them.
And it really challenges that, you know, that age-old idea of women always being in competition with each other.
Totally. Like when Layla's secretly teaching Aziza to read.
Oh, I love those parts.
So like they come alive.
Yeah.
In those moments of defiance.
You get the sense that even in the darkest times, hope can still exist.
Exactly.
That will be resist. To resist oppression, to fight for what you love, to protect it.
It's that human spirit, you know?
Yes.
And that brings us to the climax.
Oh, it's so hard to read.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. But it's also so powerful because Rasheed's brutality, it just reaches this boiling point.
Yeah.
And Mariam, who has lived her life accepting her fate, she makes a choice.
And it's a huge turning point for her, isn't it?
A defining moment.
She sees Layla in danger, and she just acts.
Pure instinct.
This desperate attempt to protect the only person who's ever truly understood her.
And in that sacrifice, you know, there's a kind of redemption for Mariam.
Oh, absolutely.
She breaks free from the chains of her past, from those years of abuse, of neglect. It's tragic, but...
There's a beauty to it.
Yeah.
Like in death, she finds a peace that she could never have in life.
It's this bittersweet resolution.
And through her sacrifice, Layla can finally escape.
Yeah. And we see her return to Kabul, to a city that's trying to rebuild.
Trying to heal.
Exactly. And Layla, she honors Mariam's memory. You can feel it, right?
Oh, definitely.
She carries her with her as she navigates this new chapter.
And her work at the orphanage is just, it's so full of hope. You
It
know?
is.
Caring for these children who have also lost so much.
It really showcases that incredible capacity we have to rebuild,
Yeah.
to find meaning, even when faced with unimaginable tragedy.
So as we kind of come to a close on our deep dive into A Thousand Splendid Suns, what is it that you really want our listeners to take away from this story?
I think it's that enduring power of the human spirit, especially in the face of oppression. This book forces us to look at these hard truths about war, about sacrifice, about resilience, especially for women. And I hope it stays with them, you know,
It does.
that they reflect on their own lives, their choices.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest nights, 1,000 splendid suns might just rise again.
Beautifully said.